that we have the motor securely mounted to the rig, we can go ahead and start cabling everything up. And we'll start with the motor side cables. And again, these connectors on the motor side are threaded males, and they have rubber O-rings on them to keep moisture and dust out. And on this cable, I'll show you this again. Let me get it untangled from the other one. Just give you a real quick close-up again of what this cable does. And that's the female cable, and on the box side with the control box, they're all male. And as you can see, there's threads inside of there and the ferrule here, so it's just a matter of getting them lined up and putting them in. And in this case, there's a marking on the side of this, and this needs to be vertical because I know I've already fitted this before. It needs to be vertical to the rig, and it goes on without any problem. So let's go ahead and put that one on. And this is the bottom one, and as long as we keep that vertical, it goes right on. Let's get it started, and easy enough. Again, these are nice industrial quality fittings, so they're made to keep dust and moisture out in an industrial environment where these servos typically are operated. Alright, and the next one, the top one, yeah, we'll let you take another look at that one up close too. And you can see that's the multi-pin one, and it has the square side also, which will line up vertically. And get it started, and it's easy as that. Well, no drama here, connecting the motor at least. Once you get those nice and tight, we're all done. Okay, so now we'll go over to the control box that I have actually mounted or stacked up behind the rig, and go ahead and get all the cabling put on that one. Alright, so now we can plug in the box side connectors, and they are the male plugs. And there is something a little different than these connectors and the other ones, and I'll show you that up close here. Let's go ahead and get the camera to focus. There we go. And these plugs don't have the threading on the top part of this ferrule. As you can see, there's no threading there. There are threads. If you look down, we can get it to focus here. If you look down inside of there, if I can get the light on it, you can see the threads down below the actual plug. And that means we require just a little bit different technique of putting these on. The only reason I point this out is because the first time I put these on, I had a little problem with them, getting them on, because they didn't go on like the ones on the motor did. So anyway, the technique is you just put the plug in, make sure you have it lined up properly, of course, and then as you're putting pressure on the back of this plug, at the same time you need to turn the ring, or the ferrule, to get the threading started as you keep pressure on it. And it can be tricky because you really don't want to get this thing started wrong and a cross thread on you. That would not be good. Imagine it would not be easy to fix that. As you can see, I'm still having some fiddly problems with it to get it to stay on and turn it on at the same time. I'm really not this uncoordinated, I promise you. Alright, there it goes finally. So now we can just go ahead and tighten this thing down. But you can see it's a little bit different than putting the ones on the motors. They went on like a charm. And I'm not sure why these are like that, but maybe it's because they don't want you to get the ends mixed up or something, I don't know. But definitely more fiddly than the other ones. And I'll show you this one. This is, again, the small pin male. Get this thing in focus. There we go. And again, you don't see the threads on the side. But we're just going to do the same process. I'm going to use my right hand for this one. We'll get that started. And you can see it's really not as bad as it looks. And once you've done it a couple times, it gets easier because you know what you're supposed to be doing. But there we go, we got it started, and we just snug it back up. Here we go. Alright, so once that's done, of course, we're just going to plug in the USB type B plug. And we're going to plug in the emergency stop button plug. And I'll show you that one up close again. And again, this is a very nice plug, like everything on this unit, built to industrial standards. And you see it's just a 4-pin male plug there with a locating tab. So, let's go ahead and put that on. And this goes on real easy, no worries here. We'll plug in the 110 volt mains and hit the power button and see what we got. Alright, we got a light, so that means everything's up and running. Now we'll go back over to the computer screen and get the configuration calibration software up and see if we can get this wheel dialed in. So, we have the SimSteering configuration software up now. And the first thing we're going to do is, remember when I mounted my motor, I turned it about 90 degrees so it would clear my monitors and I'd have the cables coming out on the side, which is the best way for my kind of setup. So now we can look at this configuration software and see how it works. Right now I have this set at 900 degrees for wheel angle, which is about, what, full turn and a quarter each way. So that's 2.5 turns total. So what we're going to do is, right now, get the wheel to move. You can see the virtual wheel in the window there. And I have my steering wheel currently centered exactly where I want it to be centered. As you can see, it's definitely not straight. It's off to the left. So what I want to do is, according to the manual, is I want to take the counts number up here when it's straight. It can be a negative or a positive number, and whatever it is, you put into the center offset counts. Currently that's 600. So let me center it again and get a definitive number that I want. And it looks like 1574, 75. Let's go with 1575, a negative 1575. See how that works. So we'll get rid of the 600 and we'll go with negative 1575. And we'll write the settings to the wheel, and that resets it. And when you hit that button, a little warning comes up to make sure you keep your hands away from the steering wheel while it's being applied. They don't want you to, if the steering wheel goes crazy before you can hit the emergency stop button, they don't want you to take your fingers or hands off, I guess. How much torque as this thing has. Okay, so now, once it resets, I actually have to move the wheel a little bit to get the virtual one to move again, and there it goes. So now, if I'm centered, I can see that I am off by, let's see, center, I'm about 600 off. A positive 600. So a negative 1575 and a positive 600 puts us at about 975, I believe. So what I'm going to do is put a negative 975 in here. And I'll go ahead and write that. Again, keeping my hands away from the wheel. Alright, so we'll get the wheel moving again. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, I'm centered now, and yeah, that's right on. So you see I had a positive 600 number in there and a 1575, which gave me a 975 if you add the positive and negative numbers together. So that's how I did that, and that's how it came out to be perfectly centered for me. So now I'm perfectly centered. Now the next adjustments that you can do here is the effect scale, and that's your feedback effects. Right now it's 30%. You can go up to 100%, which I would probably never ever do because there's so much torque in this motor. I think I'm just going to be conservative, if that's what you can call it on a motor like this, and go with 30% on the all effects scale. Dampening in the game, I'm going to leave that at 30% because that's a good starting point, and again we can change this not only here, but we can change it in most games, the dampening effects. So again, all this is going to be, I'm going to go through the basics here because really in the end, it's all going to be personal preference with what everybody runs their wheels at and the feel that they want to come out of the wheel. So stop stiffness down here under advanced settings. You can see that can go from 1 to 100. The software actually defaults to a 40 on that. And stops dampening also defaults to a 4 out of 1 of 10. And I'm going to leave that there just because that's where the defaults are, because I've actually tested a little bit before I shot the video. And you can see right now at 900 degrees I should have about 1 1/4 turn each way, or 2.5 turns total. And so if I turn the wheel, and that's what I've got exactly. But the stop stiffness and the stops dampening, there's 4 of dampening in here. If I didn't have any dampening, it'd probably feel like more of a, when I hit the stop, it'd feel more of a, like a metal to metal stop. Right now it feels like, well, it feels like a real car right now. It feels like, you know, you've always got a little bit of play in the bushings and things and the steering linkages, like the tie rod ends, and that's exactly what it feels like. In fact, it's almost eerie how real these stops feel. And we haven't even gotten to a game yet. I mean, this is really, you really have to feel this to understand what I'm feeling. It's really, really nice. Wow, that's one of the things I already like about this wheel. Wow, that really feels great. Okay, enough about that. So I'm going to leave that there. Now if I wanted to change this to, let's just say, like 1 full turn, 360 both ways, then I would change the degrees to 720. Because 360 and 360, 720. So let me do that. And I'll write the settings. And again, once the settings are set, when you move the wheel just a little bit, it doesn't do anything to the virtual wheel. Nothing happens. You have to move it about 1/4 of a turn fully, and then all of a sudden it kind of breaks loose or just gets looser. And now we're at 720, so I should have, and watching the virtual wheel here, I'm going to turn all the way around 1 turn, and yep, there it is. 1 complete turn. Wow. I mean, these stops are nice. I really like this. Alright, so I'm going to leave that at 720. Because typically I'm running a Corvette in iRacing, and that's what I'm going to test this in first, iRacing, and see how that runs. Anticipation is great now. I can't wait to get in there and try it. So, without further ado, let's get this iRacing fired up and get this wheel running and see what it feels like.